Hello and welcome to our webcast for October 14, 2016. My name is Christian Lebré and this is Amy Asbrook, the director of Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet.
Hello.
Toujours Vivant, Not Dead Yet is a non-religious organization by and for people with disability and our allies. Our goal is to inform, unify, and give voice to the disability rights opposition to assisted suicide, euthanasia, and other ending of life practices that discriminates against people with disabilities. Today's topics, we have two. The first one is Ontario Medical Aid in Dying Reports. What's missing? That's the question. Second one is assisted suicide in Switzerland increase in 2014 and 2015. You will see.
Okay, thanks. Ontario Medical Aid in Dying Report. What's missing? The Office of the Chief Coroner for Ontario has released the first statistics from the Euthanasia and Assisted Dying program in Ontario for the period of June 6th through September 30th, 2016. So it's
only
not
3
even
months, 4 months.
3.5 months.
3.5 months.
They reported a total of 79 euthanasia and assisted suicide.
Wow.
That's a lot for three and a half
Yeah,
months.
close to 20 a month.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be only for a few
Right,
case.
It's supposed to be for exceptional cases.
Yeah, there is a lot of exceptions as far as I see.
Yeah, that's a lot of people for that short period of time. And these are coroner's reports. So these are whenever a death happens, it has to be reported. And it is reported to the coroner's office. So
Okay.
that's how these are reported.
Okay, that's the one that the coroner knows that is euthanasia or assisted suicide.
Right.
There's a lot more death than that.
Right, exactly. The report does not include the 13 court-authorized euthanasia that were performed in Ontario between February 6th and June 6th, bringing the total to 92.
Oops.
So those were the court during the period after the year expired and before the legislation was passed. The Supreme Court said that people could have court authorization to have euthanasia, and 13 people in Ontario did that. So they had to go to a court and get permission to have euthanasia.
Okay, so for me, 13 or 5 months, it's closer than the need that the 92 over
72.
72,
79 rather.
79 over 4 months.
Right.
Okay, yes.
Right.
Okay, doesn't look
So-
good.
So that extra step of having to go to a court drastically limited the number of people who had assisted suicide. And it's not that the court was refusing people, but they had to take that extra step to prove that they really had an exceptional circumstance.
Okay.
So that's why the number was so low before and why it was much higher.
I don't
after.
find it so low. It's looked normal. That's
Right.
supposed to look like.
Right. If it really is for only exceptional cases, as they say, that is what it should look like. But 79 in 3.5 months, that's quite a few.
Yes.
Toronto's Globe and Mail, so we've established that according to the coroner, there are 92 cases total. Toronto's Globe and Mail stated in an article on October 6th that 95 people had died by assisted suicide or euthanasia in Ontario since February 6th. Other news outlets put the total at 87 or 89.
So I could understand that the 87 or 89 are lower than the coroner because coroner have access to all the descended people.
Right.
Get higher number, I don't know how they get it,
Right.
but I think they find some that the coroner does not know about it.
Well, I think it's also just inaccurate reporting. And
Maybe.
I think part of the problem is that we don't always know where the sources are for the news, and people aren't very careful always at writing down numbers.
Yeah, and maybe if they're at this high number, is the delayed looked The difference, maybe there is 2 or 3 that more. Yeah.
It's possible, but the other thing is, the point of putting that in was to say that we don't know how many people.
Oh yeah,
We
I
don't
understand
really
what you
know.
said. We don't know really for sure.
Right. So,
Oops, a big thing.
right. There are some provinces that haven't even reported the numbers that have died since June. There are some provinces that have collected the numbers but haven't reported them. Some haven't even collected the numbers.
Are they afraid of this number?
Well, one of the provinces, or some of the provinces, said it's a question of confidentiality.
And there's no matter of confidentiality.
Well,
there's
if there's only 2 or 3 people in a province who have done it, and there were already newspaper articles, maybe that's what they're saying. But
if you are somewhere in very small provinces,
right, well, that's what we're talking about.
But when we have provinces with more than 1 million people,
right, well, that's provinces.
No, but most,
right,
except
right,
one.
right. The report, which is presented as a 1-page PowerPoint slide, begins by breaking down the 79 assisted
One page.
Right,
Okay.
1 page. By breaking down the 79 assisted deaths by type, euthanasia, and 2 assisted suicides. So
only 2.
Right, only 2 assisted suicides. So the people say that they want to take their death into their own hands, but what it ends up happening is over to a doctor to do it.
Yeah.
Which seems a little strange to me, that if they want to take it into their own hands, why are they giving it to a doctor?
Yeah, they ask to somebody else to do what they are afraid to do themselves.
Well,
it's look like help me, I'm suffering, or I'm suffering for something, or I'm afraid of something, and I need help.
But they're also saying that they are taking this into their own hands, that this is their control of controlling it, but they're not actually taking control. They're giving it to the doctor.
Bizarre.
Because the doctor is the one who decides if they're eligible, and the doctor is the one who's ending up doing it most of the time. The underlying medical condition is listed without reference to the nature of the intolerable suffering. Remember, that's required.
Yeah, but this is what it's needed, suffering.
Right.
But we don't know if they really suffered.
Right. So
or what kind of suffering.
Right. So we have information about the underlying condition without reference to the intolerable suffering experienced by the person. And without this information, we can't know who may have been rendered vulnerable to inducement to commit suicide by their circumstances.
Okay.
So the underlying conditions, the categories are cancer related. There were 50 in Ontario. Again, this is all Ontario. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or ALS, there were 9 people. Other neurological problems, there were 10. Cardiovascular and respiratory, there were 6. And other, there were 4.
Oops.
Now,
other.
Right. Neither the other neurological nor the other category, which totals 14 cases, are specified. So there are 14 people that we don't actually know what their condition was.
Okay, that's a very high number, over 79.
Right.
So a lot of unknown things.
Right, and this is important because there are many neurological conditions, such as multiple sclerosis, mental illness, and autism, that might not make someone eligible for assisted suicide, but for which people have been granted euthanasia in other jurisdictions.
So you put them over other and oops.
Right. Well, you know, what we're concerned about is that people who are not eligible not be euthanized. And if we don't know what the underlying condition is, that it's hard to know if they were eligible.
Yeah, and we're supposed to know.
Right. According to the report, 40 people died in the hospital and 39 people died at home, where home is defined to include nursing homes and other long-term care facilities. Most people don't consider that very home-like.
No, no, this is not home-like at all.
Right.
And this is really a big flaw over information.
Right, exactly. This statistic should be broken down further to specify how many people lived in institutions, to give an indication as to whether their living situations might have made them vulnerable to inducement to commit suicide, that they might have been ineligible for assisted suicide, and they might have been just needing to, wanting to get out of the institution and live on their own.
We know the high rate of abuse people in those kind of institutions.
Right.
And even when there is no abuse, for some people, not all, like the army, it's not for everybody. For some people, it's looked like a prison.
Right. And a lot of people don't like to live in those institutions, and they prefer to live at home with home health aides that they hire and employ themselves. That would be more dignified for them, and they would prefer that, but the funds don't currently go that way. The number of assisted suicide and euthanasia cases is then broken down by county, with the largest numbers occurring in Toronto.
Looks logical.
Well, which logically, there are 24 cases, and Ottawa, where there were 8 cases, while most other counties had less than 5 each. That's all the information provided. That is the simple coroner's report.
But even if it's from a simple coroner, a coroner should have all the information. It is its job to get those information.
Right. So there is no demographic information about the people who were euthanized, no information to show whether the safeguards in the law were complied with, and no information about the doctors who performed the euthanasia.
Those kind of report at the end of the year, how do we do some research about the effect of this law?
Right. Right. We don't have that information.
Unbelievable.
Right. There's no way to ensure that all doctors who performed euthanasia actually filled out the correct paperwork and submitted the report to the federal authorities. What they're supposed to do, but the federal authorities haven't said what information they need. So
they furnish whatever they want, and if they don't want to furnish anything, they doesn't do.
Right.
Okay.
We don't know if any information will be collected and provided by the federal government in future reports about the progress of the medical aid in dying program. What we do have is information that was taken from death reports sent to Ontario's coroner's office. This report does not show whether the cause of death was listed as medical aid in dying or the underlying medical condition.
And the coroner do not do any inquiry about those deaths. Right.
There's not a global policy as to how those things are shown. In the law, it's supposed to be indicated that it was a assisted suicide, but the underlying condition is supposed to be also indicated. So we don't know if the cause of death was considered assisted suicide or not. And we also don't know whether these are going to count in the suicide statistics for the province.
People who die before receiving it doesn't count. People who just change their mind doesn't count. Right. So the number of requiring death with help will be very higher.
Right. We honestly don't. The idea of having the information is not to just have information for that sake. It's to know if people are eligible, if the people who are dying are actually eligible for assisted suicide and euthanasia, or if there are people who are being sort of railroaded and shunted into the program
without really needing it.
Right.
Okay, or willing it.
Right, exactly. It's kind of a, well, you know,
You're
There's
better
no
that
other,
way.
there's no other option.
You're better that way.
Right.
You're better that
Right,
way.
right,
Okay,
right,
okay, great.
Right. If they options or, nothing better is offered to them. So that's what we're trying to avoid. Okay.
Okay, that's a big thing to avoid, not to die when you don't want it.
Right. So we have to wait until next year when the federal government comes out with its report, and then we'll see what the federal government has to say. But the federal government hasn't even decided what information it wants to collect.
Okay, but anyway, if you are in this situation or not now, one of these days you will be in this situation. I wish not you, but it will happen. Think about it.
Right. Okay, our next topic is assisted suicide in Switzerland increases in 2014 and 2015.
It is legal in Switzerland since what year?
It's not Switzerland.
It's never been.
Basically it's never been illegal have assisted suicide.
Okay.
So they don't prosecute people for doing assisted suicides.
So it's a thing for a long time.
As long as the person isn't doing it for profit.
Okay.
Okay, according to an article at swissinfo.ch, the latest numbers on assisted suicides in Switzerland show a 26% increase in the year 2014. So
wow.
The official statistics are from 2014.
And it is existing since a long time.
Right. Right.
Normally, it's supposed to rise at the same ratio as the population.
Right. The vast
Oops.
Right. So it was a 26% increase in 1 year. The vast majority of those who died by assisted suicide were terminally ill, according to the article. And the article can be found at a link that is in the text that we send out. And if you want to receive that text, if you don't already, we'll put you on our list to send the text. Our email will give at the end of the broadcast. The Federal Statistical Office reports that in 2014, Switzerland had 742 cases of assisted suicide, more than 2.5 times as many as in 2009, 5 years earlier. So between 2009, 2014, 2.5 times more cases of assisted suicide.
It's really, really high.
That's a very high increase. Also, in 2014, assisted suicide accounted for 1.2% of all deaths in Switzerland.
It's very, very high because it's looked low because 1.2% you could think, oh, it's very, very low. No, it's not low because more than half of the population have a kind of sudden death, a car accident, heart attack.
Heart attack.
Heart attack. Okay, sorry. Heart attack and things like that. That you can't really control. But in the rest, which is less than half, you could control normally a bit. Okay. You will not be able to not dying, but you may be able to deal it quite a lot, or even have a better way to live and things like that. And 1.5, 1.2 over a lot less than for 50% is quite higher number.
Right, right. 1.2% is a fairly high number for any population, and that doesn't include the regular suicides, the people who kill themselves. And according to the Federal Statistics Office, the men and women were nearly equally represented in the assisted suicide numbers. Now that's interesting because later on we'll see that in one clinic, 10% more women than men had assisted suicide. So I'm not sure about this Swiss Info article that gives that information.
Okay.
In 42% of the cases, assisted suicides followed illnesses related to cancer. And that's pretty much what we saw from the Ontario numbers,
Okay.
that the largest percentage were
Yeah.
after cancer.
Switzerland, Belgium, and all European countries, and Canada, and US, and some countries like Brazil or Mexico are
Colombia.
really, really close, and they could be compared very easily.
Right, and the point being that most of the deaths are people who had cancer.
Okay.
And the second, neuro disorders led to 14% of the assisted suicides, followed by cardiovascular illnesses at 11%, and musculoskeletal maladies at 10%. The Swiss Info article did not explain what musculoskeletal maladies meant.
Yeah. Okay.
And we kind of suspected that might be people who with spinal cord injuries, but we don't know. We can't know more information, and I couldn't find any more information on that report.
Okay.
The Exit Suicide Clinic reported a 34% increase in 2015. Now we're into
Ouch.
2015 numbers.
The year before it was 26, and now it's 34.
Right.
34 over the 25 of the last year. It's unbelievable.
Right. So their numbers went in 2014, they had 583 assisted suicide deaths. And in 2015, they had 782 at their clinic. Now, their clinic is a small, it's like a bungalow house. And that means that they had at least 2 people per day who died in that clinic.
Okay, it's
every year.
Really, really, really
all through the year. 365 days times 2, at least 2 people per day.
Ouch.
Right. Deaths.
Come in, next, come in, next.
Right, right.
Ow.
Right. Deaths from the other Swiss suicide clinics in 2015 have not yet been reported. That's why the federal office is only giving numbers for 2014, but the Exit Clinic gave its numbers for 2015.
Okay.
So they're doing a brisk business. They can't get money for doing it because that's the law in Switzerland. They can't have any advantage from providing
They
assistance.
can't get profit.
Right.
But they could give quite good salary of people who are working in there.
Right. Well, they may be a nonprofit that, only has a certain amount of money. They may take donations or something like that. I'm not sure how it works. And finally, the Exit Suicide Clinic report indicated that of the assisted suicide deaths in 2015, 55% were women and 45% were men.
10% gaps.
Right.
It's too big. If it was 1% or 2%, it looked like normal. But 10% is quite heavy.
Right. 10% is a pretty big difference between women and men. And so I'm not sure which is right. Whether the federal statistics are wrong when they say it was about equal, or whether the Exit Suicide Clinic is wrong when they say it's 10% difference, or whether it just happened to change that much over 1 year. I don't know. But what we do know is that women tend to feel that once they lose the ability to take care of other people, they feel like they're a burden. And they feel like they should, just go ahead and die because they're not helping anybody. So
Okay.
that might be one reason that women are overrepresented.
Okay.
And also, one thing we know from Belgium is that women are overrepresented among people who have euthanasia for psychological reasons. So that may be another thing that's going on, but again, we can't know that. We can only speculate, and that's just speculation on our part.
Okay.
So that's it for our program other than to give you our coordinates. If you have questions or want more information about the subjects that we talk about, you can visit us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/toujours vivant, not dead yet, all one word. You can visit our website at tvndy.ca. You can write us an email at info@tv-ndy.ca, or you can follow us on Twitter @TVNDY. Thanks to Christian for helping out.
Thank you, Amy.
Thanks to you for being there, and we will see you next time.
See you next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.